Hey, what is up everyone? The Marathon Jsar has been around a long time and has pretty much been unchanged for a decade now. I constantly see people posting these watches, and I'm sure Marathon knows they have a good thing going with the Jsar. It is a big, beefy dive watch, but unlike a lot of other big divers, this one has its purpose, and it isn't big just to be big. I'll get into all that with this video, of course, but for those that are not familiar with the Marathon, please be sure to go over to their website. The link is in the description. Marathon is the real deal with watches sold and provided to the military, unlike a lot of brands that claim military use. The Jsar specifically is not exactly a cheap watch, and yes, it is quartz, and on sale is over $900 on the Bracelet. I know that is sending some people watching this into a tizzy, but with so many brands that come and go these days, Marathon is still here making this Jsar and other models. So let me get into the review and talk about this now iconic tool watch. As you can see on screen, the Jsar is a big watch, 46 millimeters wide and 17 millimeters thick, and a good portion of that thickness is that massive bezel. There are not too many watches that have a bezel that thick. I remember Armida coming out with the A1 years ago. It had a similar bezel, probably inspired by Marathon, and Borealis even did an homage to the Marathon Jsar line of watches, and that bezel was pretty stout, but still not as massive or as easy to grip as the Jsar. How easy is it to grip? Well, since I'm not diving, I wanted to at least test this watch with a pair of gloves. So I grabbed a pair of North Face gloves to use and see how easy you can grip the bezel. As you can see, no issues at all. Same with the large knurled crown, no problem. The Jsar is meant to be used in almost any situation with wet or gloved hands. Another key element of the Jsar is the stadium dial. It may be hard to see on camera here, but there is a significant space between the crystal and the dial. It is the deep dish pizza of the watch world. The dial is matte black, and the massive hands and markers allow the time to be easily seen at a glance. I love this dial. I always have and I always will. I love the shape of the hour and minute hand and how oversized they are. And I love the orange tips that correlate with the orange 12 o'clock marker and the water resistant print on the dial. For those that need 24-hour time, that is here as well. And also my nemesis, the 4:30 date placement. Yes, one of my all-time favorite dive watches has a date at the place I like the least, and in some cases, downright hate. I would prefer it was in a different location, but I will say it is at the edge of the dial, and not done in a manner where it is at an odd angle or creeping into the middle of the dial near the text. Being white on black helps it blend into the dial as well, so it does not stick out as much to me. The Jsar is rated to 300 meters, and yes, a lot of dive watches these days are rated much higher. So why is the case so thick? Well, that again goes back to the massive bezel. The Jsar is large, so it can be used in many situations, and while they probably could have gone with a higher water resistance, they decided not to. Unlike a lot of watches I have reviewed here that claim to be divers watches, this one is actually ISO rated, so you know it is meant to be used as intended. One thing that is missing though is the HEV, or helium escape valve. I know, I always mention this feature or lack of, and most are probably sick of me talking about it. I will just say I appreciate it not being on the Jsar, as it is useless for 99% of us. What is useful though is the drilled lugs on the case, making strap changes just a little bit easier. As this watch has been around a long time and many have owned and many have reviewed this watch, there are a few things people have pointed out about the Jsar that they wish could be changed or upgraded. The first would be the aluminum bezel insert. These days a lot of brands have switched to ceramic or sapphire crystal, and everyone has their opinions on this and what they prefer. Me, I do not mind the aluminum bezel insert one bit. It keeps the watch looking rugged, it's cheap to replace, and while it can scratch easier than ceramic, this is one of those watches that looks better with a few scratches and scrapes. But I understand and know that many would rather have their watches stay as pristine as possible. One of the other complaints stems from the bracelet. The Jsar is available with a few different rubber straps and also an optional bracelet, as you see here. The bracelet adds a significant price increase to the watch, selling for $220. The bracelet itself is very solid and the links are well made, though the bracelet does look a little thin compared to the massive case. I've never found the Jsar to be top heavy though when on the bracelet, as long as it is properly sized. Double-sided screw bars keep the links together, and even though they can be a little difficult to remove at times, the bigger issue is the clasp. I'm gonna be blunt. It looks cheap and it looks like it belongs on a $100 watch. Is it functional? Sure, but it is a thin piece of stamped metal, and even though it has a few adjustment holes and a dive extension, it is due for an upgrade. Will it ever get one? I don't know, but let's hope Marathon listens to some constructive feedback. With the bracelet, the retail price is $1,150, and as I stated, this is a quartz movement, specifically a high torque quartz, 3 joules at a F07 movement. It's a very good quartz movement with an end of life indicator, but I cannot find any info on battery life. Some quartz movements have 5 and 10-year batteries, and this is usually a selling point that the brand will have listed on the website, but I cannot find any info regarding battery life, unfortunately. I'm sure many have this watch, so if you do and you're watching this, comment below and let me know what is your experience and what your experience has been like with this movement and this watch. Marathon dubs their Lume compound Mara Glow. As far as I could tell, it is just a marketing name for Luminova, and the Lume is pretty good, though it is stronger on the hands than it is on the markers. Marathon has only 2 watches that use Mara Glow, this Jsar and the general purpose watch. All other Marathon watches use tritium tubes. While tritium never needs a light source to glow, I still much prefer the use of superluminova and the like. If you like tritium though, there is a version of the Jsar with tritium. It is also an automatic and has a day-date wheel. I will leave a link to that in the description below. That brings me to another question. Why has the Jsar in this configuration never been made with an automatic movement? Yes, as I just said, there is technically an automatic version, but it's a very different looking dial and to me just does not have the same flair and appeal as this Jsar. For years I thought it was because they just wanted a real hard use watch with a quartz movement, but many of the other Marathon watches are automatics, so I just don't have an answer for that. I would personally love to see this exact same watch, but with an automatic movement, and while it's not likely to happen, a 43 or 44 millimeter version would be great as well. Same design and dial, just scaled down a bit. The Jsar is a beast of a watch, and I still love how it looks and feels. It is a large, no-nonsense ISO-rated dive watch, and it is obviously very functional, but also fun to wear. I do wish the Lume was a little better on the markers, and yes, I still want that clasp upgrade, but otherwise, I could see why the Jsar has been around so long and has basically gone unchanged. It is currently on sale through the Marathon website for 15% off for a Father's Day sale. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, it would be greatly appreciated. More importantly, what do you think of the Marathon Jsar? Is it a watch for you, or do you own one already? Speak out in the comment section below. You could follow us on social media. It is @WatchReport. You could stay up to date with everything we have going on. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next one.